What are Petroglyph up to? Welcome to a pure speculation production. Petroglyph was founded by a group of ex-Westwood employees back in 2003 after EA took over and placed C&C into different hands. It's focused on strategy games ever since, first releasing the Star Wars Empire at War game back in 2006 to much acclaim. Then started work on a new original RTS franchise which turned out to be Universe at War Earth Assault. While not a terrible RTS, it was not great and thus failed to gain much traction. In the years that have followed, RTS took a backseat to many other genres, and Petroglyph has continued to produce games. Nothing has really hit the mark. They also attempted a Kickstarter for a game but cancelled it due to lack of interest. After releasing Grey Goo in 2015, other than hearing about 8-bit, I can honestly say that I'd not heard much about what Petroglyph were up to. They were obviously working on Conan Unconquered around this time, but I had no real relation to that franchise and the story behind it, so I had little interest. Then came 2018 and the announcement that they would be working on remastering Command & Conquer and Red Alert 1. This was the big news I had waited for, as for many years I'd been convinced that EA would one day suck it up and hand back control to the original team behind C&C, basically the people at Petroglyph. It felt like for many years while Petroglyph had made many strategy games, they had stringently tried to avoid making one overly similar to its past Command & Conquer games, and thus without a big title, it's always stayed quietly in the background, chugging along. While part of me would have said that C&C Remastered was a big break in bringing Petroglyph back to the mainstream, it sort of passed and was quite successful, but no one really talks about Petroglyph. There's not a lot of news in news outlets, there's not a lot of stuff on YouTube. Their most recent game, Earthbreakers, was planned to be a cross between FPS and RTS. I imagine it being a bit like their attempt at C&C Renegade from years gone by. However, on the 12th of April this year, a couple of days before I'm making this video, an update has been posted on Steam saying that it is now on hold. And it is as follows. Everyone at Petroglyph sincerely appreciates all of your support and enthusiasm for Earthbreakers. Since starting this project last year, we have been approached by a publisher to work on an exciting new game that has required all of our available resources, including the majority of the Earthbreakers team. This means that for now, we need to place Earthbreakers on hold while we focus our full attention on making this new project as great as it can be. We still believe in Earthbreakers, and we will keep you appraised as to when we will resume development. So hang on, hold the phone here. Pause, get a cup of tea, put on your tinfoil hat, while we enter the realm of some pure speculation, perhaps backed up by a few hints. You're back, settled with a cup of tea? Good. Let's break this down. So since they started this game last year, they've been approached by a publisher to work on an exciting new game. So since the release of Command & Conquer Remastered, they've been approached. And whoever this publisher is clearly has deep pockets, as they've allowed Petroglyph to put their other title on hold. It's my firm belief that this unnamed publisher is Electronic Arts, and what Petroglyph are working on is a new C&C title. I think it's important to have a quick look back through the history of C&C before we continue, because it's important to see how things led up to this point. C&C has had a mixed history while it's been under Electronic Arts. After Generals, which was a great RTS game but never really felt it was a true C&C title, they released Command & Conquer 3, a reasonable game but a shadow of what early game art and plans revealed it could have been. And then there was C&C 4, let's not even talk about that. Obviously, in the meantime, you've also had Red Alert 3, which was quite a fun game, but didn't quite gain the traction that previous titles had. After a quiet spell, we heard about Generals 2, which was planned to be a title returning the game to its roots, new sides being the European Union, Asia-Pacific Alliance, with the return of the Global Liberation Army. However, it then became a multiplayer-only free-to-play model game without a single player, and being renamed as just Command & Conquer, though still having the Generals factions. After much demand, they relented and added a single-player, downloadable campaign that you would pay for as DLC. However, after various quiet spells with minimal details released, some of which I've got running in the background, the game was cancelled due to negative player feedback, especially on the multiplayer side. And that was C&C gone. There were talks of a new EA studio taking over, but nothing really ever came of that. There was of course a widely chastised release of a C&C mobile game, but again, I'm not going to comment about that mess. So then until the announcement of C&C Remastered, all was quiet, and I suspect there was a bit of a labour of love for Petroglyph, and I'm not convinced EA pumped a huge amount of cash into that project. However, on the back of its success with C&C Remastered, I can fully imagine EA having a renewed faith in RTS games, especially at a time when Microsoft are pushing out Age of Empires 4. So, that's the end of our quick history lesson. Now, as I said, I always wished that EA might eventually pass C&C back to the people of Petroglyph. The love of RTS was clearly still there, and as they also let Frank Klepacki do music for RA3, a franchise still under EA at the time, Petroglyph clearly always had a love for their long-lost child. And yes, Frank could have just gone and done it, but it was put out there at the time that Petroglyph team had agreed to let him do it. Then they eagerly picked up C&C Remastered. While I'm certain there were business reasons for that, as there will have been a sizable amount of money in it for Petroglyph, I doubt the decision was purely based on that. So what we have so far is an interest from EA in possibly making more C&C games, an interest from Petroglyph in potentially making C&C games or remastering more, and obviously a notable marketplace that is re-emerging for real-time strategy games. And then back in December 2020, Petroglyph reposted a fan post on Facebook which questioned whether you would want a Red Alert 2 remaster or a remake. From my point of view, that's a difficult choice if ever there was one. What is basically my favourite C&C title to date, Red Alert 2, being remastered, well, that would be fantastic. But the chance for a new game based on that? Also yes. But a complete remake without the original actors? That I'm just not sure about. Though a continuation of the story, such as Red Alert 2 The Rise of Romanov, yes, terribly cheesy titles aside, but you get the idea, that I could certainly go along with. So a new story based around the same characters and units with similar modernised gameplay? Yeah, that could work. The truth is, while remasters are all well and good, we need a new modern C&C that stays true to its roots while providing us with an up-to-date experience. And if anyone can give us that, it would be Petroglyph. They know the formula, they just need the funding. So right now, I think Petroglyph are working on a C&C title. But what exactly that is, I'm not sure. It could be a complete reboot of C&C, a new standalone franchise within C&C, or something related to Red Alert 2. Now, I'm certainly not forgetting about Tiberian Sun, but I think Red Alert 2 was just slightly more popular. I must say, the way they specifically say exciting and new perhaps suggests a new title rather than a remaster, and needing their entire company to work on it would also fit with a new game rather than a remaster. But other than the image on the Facebook page, all of it has been very quiet. No one has really noticed Petroglyph beavering away on a new game, and no one's really talking about the Earthbreaker announcement. There's no Google News hits from the last week, for example, and I can't see anything on YouTube. So right now, due to its longer-term small nature and its lack of notoriety, sorry, I don't mean that in a rude way, Petroglyph, it's the perfect place to be working on a secret C&C game, because most of the industry is not going to get overly hyped or ask too many questions. This helps EA keep things quiet even though it's outside of their total control, aka it's not an in-house development studio, at least until they can tell exactly what the product's going to be like and then announce it. I did try to have a sneaky peek at the careers page on Petroglyph's website, but it wasn't loading very well, and I don't think there's actually any jobs on there, though they are being a lot more careful with job descriptions in the industry these days after some accidental leaks previously. Okay, so you can take your tinfoil hat off now, hopefully you finished your cup of tea. I mean, who knows, perhaps their game has nothing to do with Electronic Arts and C&C, but until I see some hard evidence otherwise, you would be hard pushed to sway me from that line of thinking. And I have reached out to Petroglyph for a comment, but I would expect either a standard industry response back, or to be ignored, because they're likely under a heavy non-disclosure agreement, and I'm a very small channel. But I will keep my eyes peeled, and you can expect to see an update here as soon as I know more. Thanks all for watching or listening. What are your thoughts about Petroglyph and what it's up to? What would you like to see from a new C&C title? A new franchise, a reboot, or a remake of a classic, or perhaps just another remaster? Let me know in the comments below. Please, as always, like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon.